So they had the first official White House briefing on those drones that were spotted over New Jersey for the past month and a half. And by the way, I've been told that they're up there now more than ever, but that might be because I think they lifted the no-flight ban. Apparently, according to the press briefing, all of those drones that were spotted were actually all okayed by the FAA to be flying. And they were a mixture of government drones that were doing certain research that they didn't really talk about. There were also commercial drones and hobbyists up there. And that's all it was. It was absolutely no enemy threat. And a lot of people think it's bullshit. What I think is funny is sometimes the most logical people will think the most illogical things simply because the group does. I don't know about you guys, but I saw countless videos of those drones, and I guess I'm the only one. I never thought any of them looked that suspicious. I thought they all looked like drones. They didn't look like anything where you look at it and you say, oh my goodness, that's from out of this world. And they didn't look like anything that looked like this huge, horrible threat other than the fact that something could run into it, right? Like what happened with the California wildfires. Now, what made this so weird was over the past couple months, a lot of places were coming out, right, saying, we don't know what the heck this is. And I think that they were all being individually true, but at the same time, we were forcing Donald Trump to give us an answer quickly, so this was the answer that we got. I happen to think that this is probably the truth. I don't think aliens or the Chinese were flying drones over, but at the same time, I understand that some people do feel that way. It's really crazy. There was a time in this country where most people did not believe in UFOs, and now we all do. But the reason we do is because of all this footage that we're seeing, right? But the truth is, a lot of this footage could be fake. I have a UFO video that I don't even know if is real. I made it myself. It was one of those where I was just doing a video and something flew behind me. Nobody gives two craps about it. And it's actually something moving incredibly fast. Every time we see a video online, it's just some bright light that's out of focus. That's all it ever is. And if you start to see enough of them, apparently it's like that old saying about a lie. Remember that old saying that if you repeat a lie long enough, people will start to believe it? Well, when it comes to the UFO drones, you show people fuzzy, blurred out pictures of lights that all look the same, and before you know it, every single star is a plasmoid, and every single drone is an alien ship. And that's how it is. Donna Lee Varon says, pack of drones over Langley Air Force Base 17 days in a row, ? Come on, people. That is no American hobbyist. Now that one might be true, but at the same time, wouldn't it make sense that maybe they were doing research or maybe they were doing some testing with something that actually belonged to the Langley Air Force Base? And isn't there a chance that they wanted to keep it top secret to the point where they gave themselves permission just to act like they didn't know what the heck it was? I don't think they were scared. I don't think they ever abandoned the Air Force Base for fear of the drone that was flying over it. And if it's doing it for 17 days in a row, they probably were doing testing for 17 days in a row. You got to remember, sometimes in life, the most logical answer actually is the answer. I think we all want it to be a UFO. And there's certain people that think, I want it to be Russia or China. And I think that might be for the same reason that I want it to be, because we all like the scary movie. But the reality is, the answer they gave us is actually the answer that everybody wants. You don't want alien beings from another planet flying over us. And you don't want Chinese or Russian drones flying over us either. The absolute best answer they could have given us is the one they did, that they were all approved by the FAA, none of them were enemy combatants, and there's nothing to fear. God, I love this shit. I really do. Seriously, I think all of the answers are fascinating. Number one, why does our government and the powers that be, why do they have so, absolutely zero problem lying to us all the time? Right? Because either they're lying to us now or they were lying to us then. Because then they were saying they had no idea what the hell these things were. And now they're saying, hey, they were all approved by the FAA, you were never in any danger. So obviously one of those two statements is a lie. And depending on how big your and my imagination is, we want our version of the story to be the one that's true. Kind of. All right, so here's another scary movie moment. Let's say the government actually did turn off all of our televisions, or maybe not turn them off, but maybe make it where the president comes on every single station. Not just the major stations like NBC, CBS, and Fox, and ABC, but imagine if all of a sudden President Trump was on every single TV station. And imagine if he actually said the drones that were over New Jersey were the first wave of many waves to come of actual aliens. We've made an agreement with them. They're going to be coming over and they're going to be taking over certain parts of the land, and that'll be where they live. And they promise not to be hostile, but just so you know, if you do anything to harm them, you're going to go to prison for a long time, right? So all of a sudden, all this stuff starts happening. That would be a true nightmare that no one really wants. Here's my question to you, Venters. If that day ever happened, a giant public service announcement, right? And all of a sudden you realize that we're no longer the most powerful creatures in the universe, that we're a distant second, right? Who would you call first? Would you be disappointed? Would it suck to find out that we're no longer in charge? Because if there's another being that's more powerful than us, I think we would have to just come to the realization that we're actually not in charge of things. And could you imagine if all of a sudden they made it where we weren't allowed to fly anymore? And oh, by the way, your cars are polluting the atmosphere and creating a lot of pollution in general, right? So you're no longer allowed to drive your cars. Could you imagine if some alien race of beings actually forced us back into the way things were back in the 1800s? Oh my God, that would be nutso. Mordecai PL says, in short, the public still doesn't know the truth. Mordecai, that actually could be the truth. That more than likely is the truth. What answer do you want? Do you guys actually think that some of those drones were Chinese or Russian? Or do you actually think that some of those drones were actually from some higher source of knowledge than human beings? That would be kind of disappointing if the aliens came all the way here from another world in what looks to be American drones. Hey.
Can I interrupt you for 1 minute? This is kind of important. I guess there's a missing boy, little boy about 9.
Oh, I didn't know.
Mexican little boy with 2 braids in his hair. Some kids told me about him.
Oh, wow.
And actually, one of the kids is my son, my youngest son.
I'll keep an eye out for him. That's scary. All right, have a good one. So right there is another virtue of walking. Not that I'm going to find the little 9-year-old Mexican boy that's missing, right? But wouldn't that be interesting if somebody walking did find the little boy, and hopefully he's able to get back in contact with his folks, and hopefully that won't make the news tonight as something horrible. Hopefully they find him. I used to say this a lot more often. I haven't said it in a long time. When you walk your neighborhood, you actually make it a little safer. When you're out and about walking and there are little boys and little girls in the park and there's a stranger danger circling in his white van, they're always in a white Chomo mobile, right? But when you're out there, it makes bad people think twice before they do bad. Now multiply you by 30 or 40 people. If we could have a situation where our neighborhoods always had 2 or 3 of us constantly walking at all hours of the day, and when I say us, I mean good people, right? That look after their neighbors, that want their neighborhood to be safe. It makes it safer for the kids. Therefore, it makes it safer for the single elderly man or woman that live by themselves. Whenever bad people are doing bad things, they usually like to do it in a way that nobody sees them. And a lot of times when nobody's out in their neighborhood, those bad things can happen undetected. But take this little boy that apparently is missing. If he was in a neighborhood where there were constantly 3, 4, 5 good people walking, it would make it really challenging for stranger dangers of the world to do something like that. So again, hopefully the kid is just at his friend's house and he hasn't checked in yet. I think that happens all the time. Hopefully he is okay. Jim Cox, 7232, says, I want to know why the government couldn't just tell us that in the first place. Jim, because all of the drones were okayed by the government, in theory, by the FAA, there would be no reason for them to come out and say everything's normal, right? The only reason they would come out is if we were actually under attack in some way, shape, or form. I think what happened is you just had a lot of people noticing a lot of drones up at the same time. They were taking pictures at weird angles. Sometimes you can have a little drone that's 35 or 40 yards in front of you, and if you take the picture at nighttime from a certain angle, you can make that look like it's some giant drone, 2 or 3 miles away. So again, I have a feeling a lot of these were just people that were trying to go viral. Did any of you guys look at the drone footage and think anything special of it? Every time I saw it, I just thought, that looks like a plane, that looks like a drone. Never once did I say, that's alien technology. Ricky Speakman says, why the BS drama around this then? ? Why they did not just come out and say this then? Something is not right about this. Ricky, you watch too many Lifetime movies. You want to make something out of this. This is no different than the people that see a little brown fur in the woods, and instead of thinking, hey, that's from a squirrel, they automatically jump to conclusions and think it's from Bigfoot. Keep in mind that UFO that I caught on camera, I never saw that with my naked eye. I saw that while I was editing video. I think that if there was a UFO that was able to travel at the speeds that they say, it would be something like the one that I caught on camera, where you have to slow it down to 1/4 speed 2 times over just to catch the thing on camera. Think about it. If these things are capable of moving 60 miles in a couple of seconds, then they are too fast for you to see them. And every time something is sitting there just like not moving, instead of just saying that's a regular drone, we always make it out to be some alien spaceship. Does anybody else agree with me that obviously most of these things we're seeing actually probably are easily explained? You ever notice some of the most fantastic UFO footage? It's over like a big city, yet nobody saw it except the person that did the video cameraing. And also, have you ever noticed sometimes they'll go out to like a mountain and it's like they've just got their video camera on and then a UFO, flies by or does something interesting? And it's like, how convenient. You just happen to be videotaping a big bunch of nothing, and then you caught something really famous and now you're going viral with it. That must be really nice. You would never know I caught a UFO on camera, but the truth is, guys, when I caught it on camera, I did not see it. And when you don't see it, you don't have that awe moment. But I think if we had to be honest with ourselves, more than likely, if you really saw a UFO doing its stuff, it would probably be going so fast that to you it wouldn't even look like it was there. Do you guys ever wonder what 3,000 or 4,000 miles per minute is? You know, that is really, really moving. We're talking literally in the blink of an eye, it is going dozens upon dozens of miles. There's no way you could see that. God, Jesse, you're starting to make sense. I know. Sometimes you just got to think down to earth. You know, we always look at people that are skeptical and we say to ourselves, God, Bob is so skeptical. Bob, you never believe in anything. I bet when you were growing up, you didn't believe in Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, right? But the reality is, Bob believes that you got to show him something extraordinary in order for him to think it's special. And for the last month and a half, you and me were looking at blurry lights that people were telling us were something unique. And all it was a bunch of drones videotaped by cameras that didn't have a very good night focus. VCR 210 says, I do not believe their explanation. This is a major cover-up here. Oh, is it? Is it VCR 210? Do you guys remember when we were all 5 to 10 years old? We all had VCRs. And those first generations of VCRs, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but they had remote controls with this giant long cord. It wasn't even cordless. We've come so far. I think what we have nowadays would probably look like ancient, or it would look like alien technology to us when we were growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It would look like alien tech. Slowly but surely, people started buying VCRs that had a cordless remote. And it was like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. And you remember how shitty VCRs were? I mean, half the time the picture didn't even look that good, right? And then there was this other little machine called the Beta. And remember, people sometimes, instead of a VCR, they owned a Beta that came with these Beta tapes. And I remember we would go to places like the Warehouse and Blockbuster Video, and we would rent movies. And then somewhere in the 90s and early 2000s, instead of having VCR tapes and audio tapes, all of a sudden we had CDs and DVDs. And nowadays we don't even have that. You just kind of download whatever you're listening to, and it just kind of pops onto your machine like magic. But the reality is, we live in a world where our military is always 20 or 30 years ahead of what we have out in public. And if you have an entity that's 20 or 30 years ahead, then whenever they do a practice flight, you're going to think you're seeing some alien UFO. And then just to confuse things, the government's not going to tell you, no, Bob, that's not an alien UFO. That's one of our military ships that's top secret. They're just not going to tell you. And don't get me wrong, I want aliens to be real as well, but I like to try to look at it from the other point of view, that more than likely, it's actually nothing. The reason I wanted people to take a look at my UFO film was because I wanted them to tell me, is that a computer glitch? Is that some sort of light distortion on my camera lens between the sun and the camera? What the heck was that thing? Because even when I slow it down to 1/4 speed, it still moves too fast for the human eye to catch it. Now I want you to think about that, guys. If something's going 1,000 miles per hour and you slow it down to half speed, now it's going 500 miles per hour. If you slow it down to 1/4 speed, right, it's going about 250 miles per hour. You would think that you would see something when something's going that quick, considering how big it was and how far in the background it was. But for whatever reason, when I slow down this video, it still goes super fast and it blows me away. But as somebody that's naturally kind of skeptical, I look at that and I say, you know what? If there was something like a UFO and aliens were in it, it would look invisible simply by driving it at full speed. So in other words, we always think, oh, these UFOs are cloaking themselves and they're invisible. What if it's not that they're invisible at all? What if they can just literally go from Arizona to Texas in the blink of an eye? They're not invisible, it's just they're moving so fast they might as well be. Does that make sense? By the way, if you haven't seen my UFO video, please watch it. It's a quick video, it only goes 30 seconds, and it's me basically trying to pause the camera and take pictures of my screen so you could see this little dot go across the screen at incredible speeds. And no matter how much you slow it down, it still goes fast. So I don't think it's a moth or some sort of bug, and I don't think it's a sunspot because I wasn't facing the sun. Lily and Carla and a couple of others have left little remarks that, wow, I saw it, that thing was fast, whatever it was. Well, I want you guys to use your critical thinking cap. If there really were alien ships and they were really here on the planet, the reason we don't see them is because they're either invisible and cloaked, right? Or they're just too fast. If something is too fast to see with the naked eye, how would you detect it? You would record the sky, and then by slowing down the video, you would slowly see that, holy shit, something flew by. That's what a UFO would look like. So here's my thinking. We ought to have a bunch of people that just take videos of the sky, not expecting to catch anything, but hoping to see something. And so you record the sky for, let's say, 10 hours a night, and then what you would do is you would watch it back in like half speed or 1/4 speed. And I know you're thinking, Jesse, nobody in the world is going to do that. I know, but that's probably the true best way to catch an alien UFO on videotape. Tell me somebody out there agrees with me. These things are going way too fast for anybody to see them. How many of you actually believe in aliens? How many of you actually believe that there's aliens but they live too far away to visit? Because that's kind of how I feel. I do think there's a chance that we actually have spaceships visiting us, but I think there's a better chance that it's probably us from the future or us from the past. As crazy as it sounds, I think it's actually a better chance of being us in some sort of time machine. Does that mean I believe in time machines more than aliens? I don't know what I believe in. I just know that we have a government that has some amazing Wunder weapons, right? That's what the Nazis called them, right? These wonderful weapons. And because they're so top secret, you don't get to find out about them until after they've been used. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think right now we're used to, how can I say this? Before World War I, nobody had any idea how bad machine guns could be. A lot of these militaries around the world were still using horses. And slowly but surely, those horses got mowed down on the battlefield by things like the machine gun. Fast forward to World War II, all of a sudden, we have people up in the sky with jets and really fast airplanes. So all of a sudden there were these battles in the sky. Well, when you and I think of war, we're still thinking like World War I with these, rudimentary tanks, and World War II with these abilities to fly and radar. Guys, our military has been practicing for World War III, which is probably going to be one where it involves things like artificial intelligence, self-automated robots, right? And UFO type technology. But I don't think it's actual UFO technology. I think it's just what American genius and Chinese genius and Russian geniuses come up with when you give them 40 or 50, billion bucks every year to mess around with. These guys probably have weapons that if you and I saw them in action, we would literally equate them to magic or alien beings. I know it's hard to understand that, but just look at it from the way people looked at it at World War I and World War II. People had no idea going into World War I that you could create these guns like machine guns that were just so deadly that they could literally mow down a field of warriors. World War II, they had no idea that they could fly jets. Imagine taking a look at those jets that the Germans had. You've got these World War I biplanes, and they've got these jets that are able to go twice as fast. That must have felt like you were going against an alien nation. Fast forward to the end of World War II, all of a sudden you see this giant mushroom cloud from the atomic bomb. What did that look like to people in Japan? It probably looked like some alien technology, like the sun exploded in their world. That's hardcore. Well, guys, that was technology from 80 years ago. Where the heck are we now? The other day I was looking at one of Elon Musk's rockets as it returned back down to the launching pad. Doesn't that look almost alien? Doesn't Elon almost look alien? Anyway, I love this stuff. If you have any comments, please do let us know. Hit thumbs up and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.